Holly Hicklin, who's a trustee at the Rise Academy. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Very busy show so far.
Yes, I feel like I haven't stopped talking, and I'm going to do a whole load of talking right now. So we're here to talk about Rise Academy and the importance of it and driving the next generation of talent in the industry. So as a trustee at the Rise Academy, how important is it to drive that and invest into driving that next generation and getting the next generation inspired?
So it's funny, even just in the conversations I've had in what are we on now? 4 hours, if that, of the show this morning, a lot of them have been about kind of the pipeline. I've been speaking with people who are kind of looking to recruit more staff soon and wondering where they're going to get them from. I've been speaking to people who are thinking about retirement and they're wondering who their successors are going to be. This is a conversation we've been having for quite some time now. I'd say I started having this conversation maybe about 10 years ago when I was still working at university.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's going away. So, Rise Academy was set up to kind of help with this, to help with that pipeline. I don't think, even though our market and our landscape is changing, that issue isn't going away. So it's something that needs to be addressed. And that's what we're here to do.
Amazing. Yeah, it's super important. And also, I think in terms of the skills gap that we're seeing, tell me more about. So within kind of all the different areas of production, post-production, virtual production, engineering, are we seeing a huge amount of skill gaps in that space, and what can we do to combat that?
Yeah, so I think there's a few issues that are happening. Obviously, a couple of them I mentioned there already. We've got a sort of retiring workforce. We've got a lot of people who've been involved in broadcast media, television, right from the days of the BBC training, and these people are now looking towards their retirement. They're starting to retire, and we've got the kind of changing landscape of what our industry looks like, and where those roles have movement. And I think perhaps virtual production is a really good example of that. We saw a lot of investment and a lot of movement and a lot of training and things a few years ago, but that kind of market has changed now, and there's perhaps a little bit of a pause in the way that we're kind of delivering that.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of fear as well around what our industry looks like. So we've got issues around kind of the workforce, and then we've got issues around the pipeline coming in. So the other side of it is education itself. Yeah. So I've referred to the BBC training, which is, was a fantastic training scheme. We still have the apprenticeship there.
That's where I came from.
That's where you came from, exactly. So I give that a little mention. But those very sort of, I wouldn't say traditional routes in, but the specialist, bespoke routes of media technology education are changing. Yeah. So those courses across the country are kind of dwindling in numbers. Some of them are closing altogether. So we need to start thinking about where the people who are going to be entering our industry are coming from. I was just having a conversation with someone, 30 minutes ago, who works for a company where they often take on graduates. Their kind of business leans towards that, and their productions. And they were genuinely wondering where they were going to get somebody from, because they weren't sure where to look anymore. We still have some amazing university courses out there, and we do still have the apprenticeship, but again, a lot of those apprenticeships that existed a few years ago have started to close as well. So we've got, aging workforce. We've got education at the other end, not quite sure how it's going to kind of fulfill the pipeline coming in. And then we've got this landscape in the middle, which is having a little bit of a confused time about where it's heading. It's scared of AI. Yeah. It's automating everything and trying to work out where it's going to deliver stuff. That all sounds very doom and gloom. I don't want to sound doom and gloom, but it's definitely something that we we need to address. And that's where we as an industry need to kind of look forwards rather than what I think we're currently doing, which is just looking at the present moment and saying, I need to staff this project now.
It's such a challenge, isn't it? Because also I feel like as technology, like we're in an industry which is very much driven by technology and changes, but then also how do you keep up with that with new talent, right? And it's like a never-ending cycle. But yeah, that's kind of where Rise Academy and other initiatives are super important to kind of lead that conversation and lead those initiatives that do, ensure that we are bringing in the right talent and inspiring the right people. Which kind of leads me on to my next question. So Rise Academy Summer School, it gives the kids an amazing exposure to real life hands-on workshops and people that are out in the industry doing what they do best. So how important is that hands-on experience for people that might not be thinking of coming into the industry because it's slightly maybe different industry to what they might have access to?
Yeah, so I think one of the issues that we have, particularly in engineering, in the technical side of our industry, is that we're not really very visible. So generally, unless something's gone wrong, you don't see us. So you don't know we exist. You might know about the technology. And, some of the more... virtual production is a prime example of that because... I don't think it used to be a dirty word to say the Mandalorian because everyone was really fed up with people talking about it. But because of the Mandalorian and the exposure that technology got, people understood that there was people behind the technology and therefore there were jobs behind that. But a lot of the time, the things that we do in our day-to-day jobs aren't visible to people. So it's not even considered as a career because the people who are trying to decide, normally in year 9, when they're forced to make their option choices and their future career decisions, they aren't aware that these jobs exist. And, careers advisors aren't aware either because generally you've got one careers advisor for a school of 1,000 kids or something, maybe even more than that. And unless you've got someone telling them these are the jobs, they're not going to kind of know that they're there. So that's where the summer school comes in. So the aim of that is to show not just the technologies, but the people behind them. So they're actually staffed by people working in the industry with those technologies, and the job opportunities that are available. So it's kind of a whole package of that. And also we want to make sure that is shown to people who may not see it because... Again, unless you know someone that works in the industry, your uncle works at the BBC perhaps, you may not have any idea or any access to that kind of technology. And you may be dissuaded from going and studying something that works towards that.
Yeah.
A few years ago, they brought in the broadcast T-level, which was kind of supposed to sort of bridge that gap between A-levels and B-techs and apprenticeships. And this is another route that could be someone coming into our industry. So the summer school is all about kind of sharing what our roles are and giving people practical experience, making it accessible for people that may not be able to have that entry point otherwise.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, as you were talking, I remembered when I applied for my apprenticeship, I had no idea what a broadcast engineer was, and I went online and I googled it, and it was just a really old photo of like someone sat in front of a bunch of screens. I was like, am I sure I want to do that? I wanted to do sound engineering, ended up working in video, so not touching sound, but that's how it happens. But it's very important, like the work that the Rise Academy and other charities and companies working in that space to kind of really drive that change. My next question, we've kind of covered it, so I probably won't touch on that.
I was just going to say, before we go on to the next question, I think something you said there really kind of reminded me about how people enter this industry and where they come from. And often it is that they have a creative interest. So I used to work at a university, and I would always ask, how did you get here? Like, how did you find us? And there are quite a few routes, and often it was someone was interested in music. Perhaps they were a music student, but they had started to use some of the technologies and become interested in that. And then they came to us and we showed them video, because there wasn't really an opportunity to play with video technology before then. And they were like, oh, that's cool. And then they ended up working in video. So your story, a very, very common one.
So many people I've asked have started off in audio, because again, it's the what you see, the accessibility,
it's more accessible.
And then it's moving into different areas that are all kind of, they work in similar ways. There's like lots of skills that you can, develop, and we know so many people in the industry that have moved from A to B, and it's
moved about. Or there's been theatre. So we used to have a lot of students that came from working at their school theatre. Then they'd ended up working on the tech and doing the lighting, and that kind of techie interest had been sparked in them.
Yeah.
So again, that's kind of what we're trying to do, really, is just give a place for people to see that there's these technologies and roles as a possibility for them.
Amazing.
No force, no pressure, but if it interests you and it excites you, really, that is what our interest, that's what industry needs, is enthusiastic people.
Definitely. People that are open to, change and riding the wave of tech, right? And obviously, so I mentioned already, we're an industry that's very much driven by the change in technology and the advances in technology. But looking ahead, so as a lot of our workflows are kind of changing, so, into more cloud production, AI, automation, all the fun stuff, all the buzzwords, for younger generation that's potentially looking at coming into the industry, what skills are most important to kind of, I guess, stand out and be in that space?
Yeah. So I think maybe 5-10 years ago, when I would have this conversation with students coming in, or when we were writing courses, when we were trying to work out what it was we were supposed to be teaching, to make sure that by the time a student finished the course 3 years later, they would have those right skills for industry. We would have said networking, we would have said coding, we would have said an understanding of the broadcast workflow and the chain. And, that was for a long time solely what we focused on.
Which is still very important.
Still very important, but definitely evolving. Not disappearing.
Yeah.
But, those coding skills, now we can get AI to do a lot of coding for us. We've got to check it. There's always got to be a human in the loop.
Yeah.
The workflow, maybe that workflow will be drafted by an AI, but at the end of the day, that will be implemented probably by a human. So I don't think at this point, all of our jobs are completely different, but particularly those people, perhaps those people that we see in the summer school this year may see a different version of the industry to what we have now by the time they come and join it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's going to disappear, and it doesn't mean that there isn't going to be jobs. It just means that those jobs will probably look slightly different to what they look like now.
Yeah.
So, I think skills specifically, it's hard to say, but I maintain that actually enthusiasm, a willingness to learn and be adaptable to that evolving industry is probably one of the best skills that people can have.
Definitely.
And being able to kind of embrace the human interaction that we have in our industry.
Yeah.
Again, I was having a conversation earlier and they said, what was funny, it was nice actually, they said, do you know all those presentations that you made me do? Well, that's probably the thing that I needed the most. I can learn the technology on the job, but being able to confidently stand and talk about it has actually been one of the things I've needed the most. So, I think there's a whole range of of kind of skills that people require.
Definitely. And also I think as, you don't need to have them all because they're developed, and, there's incentives like Rise Academy, but also on the job, like there's so much on the job learning, asking questions, like that's probably, if I was to ever be asked, like turning the interview on to me, but if I was to ever be asked, what's your one advice that you'd give to someone, one piece of advice, I'd probably say, ask questions, like, because that opens doors that,
Exactly.
So, yeah, don't need to know it all, because you're never going to, and that's fine.
And I think we're really lucky in that actually the tech part of our industry is quite small, and it's welcoming, and we have a community there where it is a safe place to ask questions. We would prefer people to be, as we know, the students that we come across at the summer school or at places and networking places like this that we meet that ask questions, they're the ones that we see again and again, and then they're the ones sat here like me and you. So that goes a long way.
Amazing. Cool. I don't know if you've got any other bits that you would like to bring up. Really putting you on the spot.
What else would I like to say? I suppose really kind of a message to industry that if I'm still having the same conversations that I was having 10 years ago about how important it is to invest in our pipeline, then we're probably not doing enough to do that, and we need to get more involved. Again, I was just stood at the Rise Academy stand, and a few people, I grabbed them, I said, scan this QR code, get involved in the summer school, and they said, oh no, we used to, and just do it. It doesn't need to be a big deal. It can be whatever you can manage. You can send one member of staff, but that one member of staff will be sharing their role and their experiences with the students that they come across.
So I've just realised some people at home might not actually know, or watching on YouTube might not actually know what Rise Academy is, or the summer school, because we've not really talked much about that.
No.
So do you want to?
Yeah. So Rise Academy is a UK charity that was set up a couple of years ago now. And its sole agenda, its purpose is to support the pipeline coming into our industry, but also ensure that pipeline coming in is from a diverse background, because it takes all types of people to come and work in TV and make TV and film happen, and that's the charity's purpose. And the summer school is a very specific part of what our work is, and it happens every year in the summer when the schools have broken up. Takes the place of maybe a school activity that you might do,
or like after school clubs, or
some kind of club, something like that.
School.
And it runs for 2 days in Glasgow, in Manchester, and in London.
Cool.
And we have, depending on the location, varying different types of industry people come along, representing the different areas of industry, spanning from film to TV, but also very specifically bits of technologies along that. We have outside broadcast trucks come along to some of them. We have tours of studios, depending on which one you're at.
Much fun.
It is lots of fun, and everybody that gets involved with delivering things absolutely loves it. And seeing, as a former teacher, that was always my favourite part of the job, seeing the spark when somebody is like, oh, this is cool. This is a cool industry to work in. Because it is a cool industry to work in. And I think sometimes we forget that in the day job.
We get boggled down on the paperwork, but it is
in the weeds.
Yes.
Yeah.
And websites, how can people find out a bit more if they want to get involved, or if they want to attend, if they're students?
So if you are attending MPTS, then come along to our stand. We are next to the Simpty stage, and you can sign up and get involved be a part of the volunteer base. You could volunteer some time to help deliver some of the workshops, or chaperone, or you could donate some equipment. It really does depend on what your background is. But come along there. If you're not live at the show, do check out the website, riseacademy.live. I think just Google LinkedIn, it comes up.
All the above.
And you can get in touch with us that way, and we can put you down for whatever you're keen on volunteering for.
Amazing. Well, it was lovely to chat with you.
Always lovely to chat with you, Amber. Thank you.
And have a great MPTS. And thank you to everyone.
See you at the summer school.
Yes, see you at the summer school.
Thank you.